The NBA Cup is here, thankfully. Yes, we can watch the most important tournament in all of basketball right in front of our eyes once more. I'm being facetious. I think this is ridiculous. I'm sure Damichael disagrees with me. Should we be upset that the Memphis Grizzlies are on the outside looking in of the NBA Cup? Ja Morant's coming back soon. He's buying tickets for Grizzlies fans for the game that was created because of the stupid NBA Cup. And the odd man out. Who does Ja replace in the Grizzlies rotation? It's an easy answer for me. Let's see if it's easy for you. Let's lock in on this episode of Locked On Grizzlies.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes. It is a Wednesday edition of Locked On Grizzlies. Thank you so much for being with us on this episode of the show. It is I, Ja Mullinax, joined by my wonderful co-host, Damichael Cole, Memphis Grizzlies beat writer for the Commercial Appeal there in Memphis, Tennessee. I am a contributor over at Beale Street Bears. I also do some substacking over on Grizzly Bear Blues. So glad that you're with us wherever you're checking out the program. Thank you for joining us. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts as proud members of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every single day. Like, comment, rate, review, subscribe wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Google, YouTube, literally anywhere you go to get a podcast. Make Damichael and I part of your NBA and Memphis Grizzlies content consumption each and every time that an episode drops, and continue to build what is now the #1 sports podcast network out there. It is much appreciated. Thank you so much for doing just that. Damichael Cole, I'm going to bring you on in this is a home run for you. I'm tossing up the softball and you're right over the fence.
Yeah,
the NBA
I used to do that a lot.
The knockout round, the knockout stages, right, of the NBA Cup. We are so fired up for this. I am not fired up for this. I am not. I faked it there for a while, right? Trying to be excited about going to Las Vegas. Number one, I'm glad that the Grizzlies didn't make the NBA Cup knockout stages and then eventually the tournament itself, because, again, the semifinals are the part, I believe, that are in Vegas. Glad that they didn't make that, because it would probably result in the end of my marriage. 13 years of marriage would be up in smoke because I'd be going into debt to go to Las Vegas to watch Memphis Grizzlies basketball and probably do other things I shouldn't be doing. But thankfully that didn't happen, at least for me, on a personal note, right? On a professional note, the Memphis Grizzlies likely wouldn't have had Ja Morant. Bringing him back for the first time in a long time after a long absence for a game that's supposedly more meaningful maybe wouldn't be the best use of the Grizzlies' time. And I'm reaching a bit here. I'm acknowledging that because I've been a Tuomas Isalo critic, right? The system that Tuomas Isalo is trying to implement that has the Memphis Grizzlies with, believe it or not, either at or close to a top 10 defense in the NBA now.
Yeah, number 10 right now.
Version of the efficiency numbers you use. We'll call it top 10, right there at number 10. Whether it's that, whether it's the offense improving with Zach Edey, however you want to give credit, the simple fact that the schedule has gotten lighter, the team's playing better. I don't know that the way that Isalo runs things is conducive to a knockout round. Like, how mad would Memphis Grizzlies fans be, Damichael, if they are within a possession at the end of the game, 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and Isalo pulls Zach Edey because he's right at 30 minutes? He's not going to play 33 minutes.
Wow.
He needs to come out. Jock Landale's going to close this game because he's been out there too long.
It's a minutes recommendation. It's not a limit. It's a recommendation.
I'm not sure that the Isalo experience is conducive to an NBA Cup knockout stage run. So for me, I am not longing for the NBA Cup. What say you?
Okay, from that point, I would have loved to see, how he coached, because this was the thing with Taylor Jenkins for so many years. We went through those regular seasons and the Grizzlies always looked good, but it didn't become a thing until after, I think, the Lakers' first round loss. At that point, that's when it kind of became a thing, like, okay, this team is not the same team in the playoffs as it is in the regular season, which eventually, led to his exit. Like, they were pretty much on path to make the playoffs, but it's about having some type of success in the postseason. And the Grizzlies haven't demonstrated being able to do that much. So I would have loved to get, because I do think the cup gives you a little bit of that. It's high intensity. You're competing for something. And a lot of teams, you go back to the last couple years in Cups games, they do the minutes go up for the stars and things like that. So it would have been interesting to see, if he stuck, to his method and say, hey, I'm playing my guys 32 minutes, and then if you play yours 40, then so be it. Or if he would have kind of, let the leash off those guys a little bit and just let them play.
Zero shot. You don't actually think Isolo was going to change the way that he coaches for the cup? Because of the cup? Is it because it's European style, Damichael? Is that why you think he might change his mentality?
It's got nothing to do with it, man. I just think at the end of the day, you're a competitor. And remember, the first cup game, the knockout stage, the quarterfinal and the semifinal count against your record. So you're playing for something other than just the cup. You're actually playing for at that point playoff seeding too. Now let me get more to your side. And this is where you'll be fine with this part of my statement. This was a blessing in disguise in a way that the Grizzlies did not make it in the cup. Like, I think if we would have said before the season, what's the perfect case scenario for the Memphis Grizzlies going into this whole cup situation, other than winning the whole thing, the other perfect case scenario was having a successful record in group play, maybe getting beat out because of point differential, and then drawing two weaker opponents. That was the best case scenario. And what has happened now with the Grizzlies is they went 3-1 in group play. So I know some people are frowning at that, Joe. Like, wow, how do you go 3-1 in group play and still not make the cup? Well, look, let me tell you, you might want to be happy about that, because I looked at it. If they would have made it, Joe, the team that they would have replaced is the Phoenix Suns. They would have replaced the Phoenix Suns. If you take out the Suns and you insert the Grizzlies, well, congratulations. You got the Oklahoma City Thunder in Oklahoma. And then if you somehow get past them, congratulations. You're playing the winner of the Lakers and the Spurs. So those three teams, the Grizzlies are combined 0-4 against this season. Spurs got them twice, and I think the Lakers and OKC got them once. So 0-4 against those three teams this season. So you potentially go from, because the Grizzlies are 11-13 right now, you go from falling to 11-15 as a very realistic chance that the Grizzlies could have failed to 11-15 to the idea of being 13-13, because you've beaten the Clippers twice, and you got them again. You get the Jazz at home. Very realistic chance that the Grizzlies can get to 500, Joe.
And that should be what matters most. And I'm so glad that you brought up that reality, because who cares?
I knew you would like that. I knew you would like
that. The NBA Cup. Not me. I don't care. I care about the games that actually matter in terms of wins.
So I got a question for you, Joe.
Towards the regular season and the actual tournament at the end of the season, the post-season tournament, not the in-season tournament,
Joe,
not the cup sponsored by whatever sponsor it is that is helping pay.
It's Emirates,
all of this
the
extra
NBA
money. Emirates, okay? not that. Whoever's going to make the next ungodly colored court, not them. I want what this team needs to be in a better position to make the playoffs. That's what matters most. And
you're
that's
telling
exactly
me the
what's
idea
transpired here.
Of Ja being back right on the cusp of an NBA Cup game wouldn't have gotten you a little bit excited. Come on, Joe.
No,
just a little bit. A little bit.
Not. Because
you get Ja back for the quarterfinals?
You know what would have made me mad? And you know this is true. You know me well enough by now. You know what the hype would have been on Amazon on Prime or whoever's airing these godforsaken games?
I know where you're
Witness Ja Morant's return as he prepares to lead the Grizzlies in the NBA Cup. After a month of just completely pooping, that's the technical term, all over the poor man, and we'll talk more about Ja throughout this episode, but he should be traded. He's a bad leader. All of these hot takes that all of these people have had, and now because Ja Morant's making his return, that would have been the story. No, I don't want to give them the satisfaction. I don't want them to be able to hype up on their national machine after abusing the Grizzlies and Ja for the last month. No. You know when Ja's going to come back? On December 12th. Against the Utah Jazz in front of a half-sold-out crowd at FedEx Forum because it's a random game unless they buy more tickets, which we'll talk more about here in a second, the players themselves. And that's what I want, because that is what the team is going to be able to use to get themselves into a better position. As you alluded to, exactly right, Damichael Cole, a chance for them to be in a better spot for actually making a postseason push as opposed to a NBA Cup push. Who cares? Maybe you care. Let us know in the comments. Hit us up on X at Damichael C, at Joe Mullinax. Should we be longing for the NBA Cup? I'm clearly not pining for it. I know Damichael would have enjoyed going to Vegas.
Would have been fun.
Would have been fun. And like I said, aside from my marriage ending, it wouldn't have been no fun. But I wouldn't have wanted that, of course. I love you, honey. When we come back here on Locked On Grizzlies, who's the odd man out for this rotation when Ja Morant makes his likely return this coming Friday? Stick around here on Locked On Grizzlies. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by Mint Mobile. You know, there's no reason to let big wireless drain your wallet, especially during the holidays. Right now, Mint Mobile is running their best deal of the year. All of their unlimited plans are 50% off. That means you can lock in a 3, 6, or even 12-month plan, unlimited premium wireless for just $15 a month. It's the easiest way to take your overpriced phone bill and give it the full Scrooge treatment. And what makes this even better is how simple Mint makes the switch. No contracts, no nonsense, just real savings, real quality service. Switching to Mint lets you keep your same coverage for a lower price. And setup only takes a few minutes. You can bring your own phone and number over with you without any issues. It feels good knowing you're not overpaying to just stay connected. Turn your expensive wireless present into a huge wireless savings future by switching to Mint. Shop Mint unlimited plans at mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. That's mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. Limited time offer, upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12 months plan required, $15 a month equivalent. Taxes and fees, initial plan term only. Greater than 35 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com for more details. Michael, before we get back to the program, I do want to remind everybody that we are so grateful for helping make Locked On Grizzlies part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network now, and making us your first listen each and every day. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Grizzlies with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to this URL, go to lockedongrizzlies.supercast.com, and make sure you are checking out our link in the show notes as well to help you learn more about the brand new Locked On Everydayers Club. Damichael, Ja Morant returns. We're excited about that. More than likely on Friday, and we'll talk more about the ticket purchase and all that sort of stuff later on in the show, on 12/12 day, no less. I'm curious as to who you think the answer is to who is the odd man out of the rotation with Ja returning. I'm okay with this being a shorter part of the program, if I'm being honest, because you probably know exactly where I'm going with this. I know exactly who I am cutting out of the rotation, and I don't need. I don't think anybody offensive rebounding. I don't need people to try to argue for the value of being malleable with all sorts of different lineups and rotations. No, John Konchar, thank you for your service. Welcome back to the bench. That's where John Konchar is going. He played important minutes in that Trailblazers game. He's kind of that 10th man already. That's where at least 16 or so minutes a game is coming from. Now you're going to have to cut him from other places. Vince Williams Jr. probably loses a little bit of that with his point guard duties. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope maybe loses a few here or there. I'm sure you have some thoughts on this as well, as of course, as you should. But for me, the biggest person, it's like Brucey from The Longest Yard, right? Oh, crap, now I'm never going to play, right?
This is Brucey from The Longest Yard? Wow.
That's what John Konchar is probably thinking as Ja Morant returns. And again, I've never met John Konchar. Could be a wonderful human being. He probably is a wonderful human being. Nothing personal. I can't possibly formulate a personal opinion because I don't know the guy. He has no idea who I am, I'm sure, and that's totally fine. John Konchar, you are out of the rotation as Ja Morant returns. You maybe disagree with that, but I feel like that's a pretty easy answer.
No, I'm not going to disagree with you, but I'm going to just talk about this from a contextual standpoint of there's going to be some configurations that have to be made as well. One of those things, like let's talk about Vince Williams Jr. for a second. Vince Williams Jr. is about to go from playing on the ball all the time to, I think, pretty much not playing on the ball much at all. That's a pretty noticeable change to me, given the fact that Ja's going to play the bulk of the starting minutes. We know that, and behind Ja Morant, it's going to be Cam Spencer. I think we can agree, even over the last couple games, if you've been watching, Cam Spencer's coming off the bench, but Cam Spencer is very much so outplaying Vince Williams Jr. in total minutes. This is the situation that we saw earlier in the season when Cedric Coward was playing more minutes when he was coming off the bench than Jalen Wells and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. It's reversed. It's just at the guard spot now. Cam Spencer's outplaying Vince Williams Jr. in minutes. Vince Williams Jr. is just drawing the start in games, and I believe he's played less than 20 minutes the last couple games. And there have been some struggles there. But I think what it'll come down to is Vince Williams will get the first, opportunity because it's going to be an adjustment, I think, again, for him going back off the ball, playing in that role. I mean, he's kind of found a rhythm. He's kind of found the niche. And quite frankly, we asked him a couple days ago, when do you want to keep playing in this role, or would you rather go back to your 3-and-D role? What do you think he said, Joe? What do you think he said? What's your
As someone
guess?
who's been in sports a large chunk of my life, I would be willing to guess that he said whatever the coaches and team needs me to do.
He answered it. No, I'll give you that one. He answered it. He chose
I must
one.
have missed that. What did he choose?
He said that he'd rather stay in this role. It surprised me.
Usually you say, I just am going to do what's best for the team. That's the politically correct answer.
That's the politically correct answer, but I'm glad that Vince Williams Jr. gave us he told us what he was feeling. So look, that sounds good, but it's highly unlikely given that Cam Spencer's outplayed him as of late. Ja Morant's going to get the point guard. So you're looking at a situation on the wing where it's going to come down to Vince Williams Jr. or John Conchar. And this is where you talk about, John Conchar's rebounding numbers are really good. So are Vince Williams Jr.'s. These are two of the better rebounding wings, and it's important that they have one of those. They talk about lineup pairings a lot. I wrote about this yesterday. Part of the defensive changes that they've made and whatnot is like players have a really good understanding of, the emphasis on rebounding with the different bigs. When Zach Edey's in there, get out the way. He's snagging it. When Jock Landale is in there, and Jock Landale will tell you this, I'm going to prioritize getting positioning. I'm going to box my guy out. I'm going to try to pin him under the basket. That means you need to get your butt in here and you need to snatch the ball. And that's where Cedric Coward, John Conchar, Vince Williams, those guys tend to come into play. So I think Vince Williams Jr. gets the first crack. Now, if you look at the minutes distribution with John Conchar and Vince Williams Jr. over the last couple of games, it's been pretty similar. So I really don't know which way that Isolo is leaning on this, but I'm going to lean Vince Williams Jr.
Interesting. I think that Vince Williams Jr. has to be self-aware enough to know, and I'm sure he is. He's in the locker room every day. He understands his role on the roster better than me, maybe even better than you, because he's literally there all the time. He has to see that he is much better suited for contributing to this team, not just in the here and now, but long term. Again, we assume that Ty Jerome will eventually make his Memphis Grizzlies official debut. We assume that Scottie Pippen Jr. will be back at some point. If he wants to be a contributing player and beat out a Kentavious Caldwell-Pope or somebody of that ilk, it has to be as a wing. He's not going to be a guard on this team. That's Cam Spencer's problem. Vince Williams Jr. was doing this out of necessity.
Exactly. And that's how I look at it too. With Vince Williams Jr., he kind of said it himself. He hadn't played point guard mostly since like high school days, and he did a little bit, in college, and then
shout out VCU Rams. Go Rams.
Shout out to VCU Rams. And same thing with Cam Spencer. He said the same thing. And that's kind of the situation. All these point guards have been hurt, and they've been kind of thrown into these situations and whatnot. And it's, I feel like it's tough though for Vince Williams because you saw it, especially with the game with 15 assists, and he had the 17 assist game. You saw like he found a pathway there. And of course, it comes down to shot making. I know some people wanted him to be a little bit more aggressive with the shot, and that's kind of one of the big differences because Cam Spencer's coming off those screens. And when Zach Edey creates that space, Cam Spencer letting it go. And I think I saw a stat where right now Cam Spencer is the best pull-up three-point percentage shooter in the NBA right now. He's making over 50% on pull-up three-pointers. And that comes in handy when you got a guy like Zach Edey who's going to set that screen, clear that space, and you take that one dribble pull-up and you drop it in the basket. Vince Williams Jr. Hasn't had that same ability. But, again, the defensive ability of Vince Williams Jr., I mean, it was nice for a while to see the Grizzlies have Vince, Ced, and Jalen. Like, didn't you like that? Like, that's a big reason for, we talked about now back-to-back games where they've allowed under 100 points. We talked about over the last 10 games how the defense has drastically, been on an uptick. Top 3 defensive rating over the last 5 games. A lot of that is Zach Edey on the back end, but it's also the fact that you have all these dynamic perimeter defenders. That's something we're going to have to talk about later in the week. You're going to lose one of those defenders when you insert Ja Morant in there, so that's something that's going to be worth touching on as well.
And it also has to do with the fact that they have played one of the weaker schedules in the entire NBA over that last same stretch of games. I hate to be a Debbie Downer or a negative Nancy. Usually I'm a positive Pete. But I want to just remind everybody, context is important. The Grizzlies are playing better, but two things can be true at the same time. They're playing better while they play inferior competition. How the Grizzlies look when that competition steps up a little bit over the next couple of weeks, that will be fascinating to watch unfurl, especially as Ja Morant makes his return to the Grizzlies, almost certainly on Friday, barring something unforeseen. He went out and made a goodwill gesture to Memphis Grizzlies fans. We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Grizzlies. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by Game Time. The World Cup is coming back to North America. This is happening for the first time since 1994. 48 teams are involved for the first time ever. It is going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's why the Game Time app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. All you have to do is pull up the app. The layout makes it so simple to scroll through matchups and compare seat views. And the seat view feature is a game changer. You literally see what the pitch looks like from your exact seat before you buy. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets in every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Game Time. Check them out today. Closing out this episode of Locked On Grizzlies, it is I, Joe Mullinax, alongside co-host Damichael Cole, Memphis Grizzlies beat writer for the Commercial Appeal there in Memphis, Tennessee. And Damichael, they haven't kicked me off of the email list yet, which I appreciate. Shout out to Ross over at Grizzlies PR.
Shout out to Grizzlies PR.
I'm sure you knew about this before I did, but I got the email. Number 12, Ja Morant, to treat 250 fans with tickets for Grizzlies game on Friday, 12/12. Okay, call 12 on 12/12. I like that. Against the Utah Jazz. Memphis Grizzlies guard number 12, Ja Morant, is treating 250 fans with a pair of tickets to the game on Friday, December 12th at 7 p.m. Central against the Utah Jazz. Tickets will be given away Wednesday, December 10th. That is today. At 2 p.m. inside the grand lobby of FedEx.
Better get there.
First serve basis. Yes, hopefully you're getting this episode early in the morning, and you know that you need to get downtown. You need to get to the grand lobby of FedEx Forum and get those tickets. And shout out to Ja Morant for this offer. I mentioned it earlier in the show. It's been a rough month or so for Ja Morant. Not as rough as previous months have been, but still pretty rough. And I mentioned on yesterday's show that this may be the most important return game for Ja since that first game back coming out of the 25-game suspension. And I stand by that. I think that take has aged relatively well in the 24 hours or so since I had it because of everything we talked about earlier in the program. The idea of him being like LaMelo Ball or Trae Young as a troubled guard who needs to move. You know, the Minnesota Timberwolves are interested. He should go to the Miami Heat and play for Heat culture. Never mind, the offense of the Miami Heat is the same offense that Ja allegedly was not as big of a fan of this past year with Noah LaRoche. So much misinformation, so many hot takes and narrative-creating comments. This is Ja stepping up and sharing out his love for Memphis, which he has been fairly upfront about this whole process on social media. At
Go
least.
figure that.
This is him putting his literal money where his social media presence is, right? This is him paying for 250 members of the community to go to this game, be a part of his likely return on 12-12 day. Ja Morant is someone who, for all of his flaws, you certainly cannot say that he does not love Memphis, does not love the community. He's not actively a positive part of that community. And in the lead up to his return to Michael, I know you've noticed this too. He's been active as a coach on the bench. He has stood up for his teammate, Cedric Coward, when Denny Avdija did something he probably shouldn't have done in the game on Sunday. This is a Ja Morant who, as disconnected as maybe he appeared before, again, it's hard to erase those messages and memories out of your mind. He looks very connected right now, and this is a real good gesture from Ja. It's important to remember, whether it's a podcast, a newspaper, a blog, just a fan of the team, when Ja Morant succeeds, that usually means Memphis succeeds, and that's what everybody should be rooting for, right?
It's definitely what everybody should be rooting for. In this case, getting Ja back out there, like we talk about all these things, that the Grizzlies have improved that with, you said it, with the weaker schedule. The offense still isn't, anything to be excited about. And that's something that you're hoping to get, when you get Ja back. But, the ticket part, with the buying tickets and things like that, it's something that we've seen Jaren Jackson Jr. do this, in the playoffs a few times, first round of the playoffs, buy some tickets for fans, things like that. So shout out to Ja. And it's 12-12, right? It's December 12th. And number 12 for the Grizzlies. So it's a Memphis holiday at this point. It's 12th day in Memphis. So Ja Morant's returning. Number 12 is returning on 12-12. I'm surprised, the ticket number didn't end with 12 on the end. So, but all jokes aside, yeah, shout out to Ja Morant for doing this. He does a lot of things in the community, and I even know that, like, a lot of those things aren't publicized. Like,
Correct.
You talk to people around him every now and then. I find out some things that he's done in the past, and it's like, oh, I didn't know about that when it happened. Or sometimes I find out things right when they're about to happen, and it's like, they don't really care about the attention, for certain things. So there are certain times, we publicize or whatever, all these things that Ja Morant's doing. The Grizzlies publicizing, or his team publicizes them. But some things are just at the kindness of your heart. Like we've seen the videos in the past where he gave the lady the tip and in the restaurant. And there are several examples. I've heard people tell me, like, man, Ja gave me, a nice tip and all these type of things. But that's all beside the point. It just goes back to the fact, shout out to him, looking out for the Grizzlies fan. This is a game, that was just added to the schedule. I believe like November 29th is when it came out. And look, going back to the part, like, it would have been cool if the Grizzlies were playing some high-end teams like they would have been playing in the Cup. But now you just draw the Utah Jazz. Like, the Utah Jazz by name, no one's jumping out the seat going, hooray, it's the Utah Jazz. But, Ja's return, and then these tickets to giving these fans 250 tickets, that should definitely help get some seats and get some butts in FedEx Forum.
I would agree. So again, kudos to Ja Morant. Wonderful gesture. Hopefully folks are heading to FedEx Forum on Friday, going to check out the team. Again, they are well set up to be 500 by the end of this weekend. That is a very realistic thing. And if you had told that to me at the start of the season, before all of the injuries and craziness, I would have been thrilled. I would have loved them being a 500 basketball team around Christmas time. They have a very real possibility of being able to do that. So, again, nobody's been harder on Tuomas Isolo than me. Nobody has been as hesitant to give credit where it's due. But given everything that's transpired, Ja Morant's return, it feels like a positive vibe. It feels like a positive thing, and that's crazy to say going back a month ago how those tides have turned. It's funny how winning helps with that, Damichael Cole. It's funny. Just a little bit of winning can turn things around. But kudos to Ja Morant. Well done. Well thought out plan to build buzz for, like you said, a Friday night game in Memphis against the Utah Jazz. It means a little bit more, I think it's fair to say, today. Thanks for tuning in to Locked On Grizzlies. We appreciate it. On our next edition of the show, I think the Grizzlies are finally practicing, right? I believe that'll be happening, and we'll probably get some tidbits out of practice from Coach Isolo and players that Damichael gets a chance to speak with. Anything else? You mentioned a moment ago some other ideas of how we could tackle our next edition of the podcast, partner.
Yeah, we definitely got to start looking at some of these other what do you call them? Just the ramifications of Ja Morant potentially being back here. But yeah, we'll hopefully get a practice in here so we can get an idea of just, what he's doing in practice, how close he is. Again, the last time I checked, he was still doing no contact stuff, right? It was still no contact. But now I'm sure at this point, he's probably going to be doing some contact where I think that's something that people may want to know. But yeah, just the ramifications of this Ja thing, because it's a lot. It's a lot.
As long as there's not a step back, right? We've talked about this before. Usually a player is listed as doubtful, then questionable. It protects them in case something goes wrong or south. That's likely what's going to happen, but you feel more confident in that coming out of an actual practice. And we should have that for our next episode of the podcast. Make sure you're subscribing and following Locked On Grizzlies so you get all the latest episodes. Remember, we're at Joe Mullinax, at Damichael C on X. Did Locked On Grizzlies make your Spotify Wrapped or maybe your YouTube list? Prove it on social media. Secure a free month of our brand new Everydayer Club. Just tag our National Locked On Podcast Network account on any social platform and we'll drop you a code. Be one of the first to enjoy the Everydayer Club to get your favorite show, Locked On Grizzlies, ad-free and exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National NBA YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you are making your second listen NBA game night on Locked On NBA. Make sure you're liking, commenting, rating, reviewing, subscribing on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Google, YouTube, literally anywhere you get podcasts. Make Damichael and I part of your NBA and Memphis Grizzlies content consumption each and every time that episode drops. I appreciate it. I know Damichael does as well. We will catch you next time here on Locked On Grizzlies. Stay safe out there. Stay warm if it's cold where you are. Make sure that you are subscribing, and we make sure that you are back with us tomorrow. See ya.